Many Bible readers often focus on prominent narratives within the text. These include widely known stories, such as Noah's flood. Another example is Moses leading Israel out of Egypt. These narratives are frequently highlighted due to their widespread recognition. Familiar biblical passages often contain subtle references. These references frequently go unnoticed by modern readers. They hint at deeper historical layers embedded within the texts. Careful analysis reveals these underlying historical contexts. Ancient biblical texts frequently refer to powerful clans inhabiting the land of Canaan. These clans were consistently described as possessing remarkable physical attributes. Specifically, their exceptional height and strength were distinguishing characteristics. These descriptions highlight their significant presence and impact in the ancient narratives. Ancient texts, such as the Old Testament, often refer to specific groups of people. These groups were identified by distinct names within the historical narratives. The recurrence of these names across multiple books highlights their importance. Their consistent mention indicates a significant role in the historical context. This repetition underscores their lasting impact and cultural relevance. Thus, these groups held considerable significance within the Old Testament's narrative. The Anakim are a group frequently mentioned in various biblical accounts. Their name recurs across different ancient texts, highlighting their significance. These references provide insight into their perceived role and characteristics. Scholars often analyze these mentions to understand ancient societal perceptions. The Anakim serve as a key element in understanding certain biblical narratives. Ancient texts provide insights into the Anakim, a group of inhabitants in Canaan. These texts describe the Anakim as residing in fortified cities. Their settlements were primarily located within the hill country of Canaan. The presence of fortified cities suggests a significant strategic importance for the Anakim. This information is derived from historical and religious ancient textual analyses. Ancient texts describe the Anakim, a group of formidable warriors. Their physical presence was a significant factor in their fearsome reputation. Explorers sent to survey the land encountered these imposing figures. The sheer sight of the Anakim instilled profound fear among these individuals. This fear was not merely psychological, but a direct response to their physical might. The Anakim's intimidating stature and appearance were central to their legend. The name Anakim holds significance in ancient biblical texts. Their initial mention occurs within a dramatic historical context. This first appearance is specifically during a reconnaissance mission. The mission is detailed within biblical history narratives. This event marks their earliest significant recorded presence. The Anakim are thus introduced through a pivotal historical account. In the biblical book of Numbers, Moses initiates a crucial exploration. He dispatches 12 spies to investigate the land of Canaan. This land was believed to be promised to the Israelites. The mission was to assess the land's resources and inhabitants. Upon their return, the explorers conveyed significant findings from their journey. Their report included detailed geographical observations of the newly explored lands. Beyond geography, they also shared unsettling details about the land's inhabitants. These accounts provided critical, albeit disturbing, insights into the unknown territories. Ancient texts often contain detailed reports on land conditions and resources. These documents provide insights into historical agricultural practices and resource management. Analysis confirms the land described as fertile, indicating suitability for cultivation. The texts also report an abundance of natural resources, fulfilling initial expectations. This positive assessment of fertility and resources aligns with certain historical promises. However, other findings within the same reports present a contrasting, less favorable outlook. Spies return from their reconnaissance mission, bearing crucial intelligence. Their report details the characteristics of the inhabitants of the surveyed land. They describe the people as possessing an extraordinary and imposing stature. This physical description deeply unsettles the spies, causing significant distress. The report generates considerable apprehension and fear among the listeners. The perceived threat from these inhabitants creates widespread unease and concern. Ancient texts describe the Anakim as a formidable group of people. Their reported stature was exceptionally large, inspiring fear. Spies sent to observe them felt dwarfed by their presence. they perceived themselves as small as grasshoppers in comparison. This perception highlights an extreme level of psychological intimidation. The narrative illustrates the powerful impact of perceived physical superiority. Biblical narratives often contain vivid descriptions. These descriptions highlight physical differences within the text. They also emphasize the psychological impact on characters. Such statements are crucial for understanding the narrative's depth. The text conveys a significant physical disparity between entities. This disparity extends beyond physical attributes to psychological intimidation. It indicates an overwhelming sense of fear experienced by the spies. The psychological effect is profound, highlighting the power imbalance. Ancient texts often convey more than literal meanings, requiring careful interpretation. The explorer's statement about opponent's strength was not a simple factual observation. It conveyed a deeper emotional state, reflecting their psychological condition. The phrase expressed a profound sense of being overwhelmed by the impending confrontation. This highlights the importance of contextual and emotional analysis in textual interpretation. The Anakim were a group known for their imposing stature in ancient texts. However, they were not the only group remembered for their large size. Other names of similarly imposing groups appear repeatedly in the Old Testament. These references highlight a recurring theme of giant-like figures in biblical narratives. Ancient texts, specifically within the Old Testament, frequently mention a group known as the Rephaim. The repeated appearance of this name signifies their widespread recognition in historical narratives. This consistent mention indicates their significant presence or influence in the ancient world. Their recurring mention suggests a notable role in the cultural or historical context of the era. The Rephaim were an ancient group, often mentioned in historical and religious texts. Their geographical presence was primarily associated with regions east of the Jordan River. Specific lands, such as Bashan, were delineated as key territories for the Rephaim. This association helps to map their historical and cultural footprint in the ancient world. Ancient traditions provide insights into historical populations and their societal structures. The Rephaim are remembered as an early population group in ancient texts. These traditions indicate the Rephaim once occupied extensive territories. Their presence predated the establishment of many later civilizations. Over time, the Rephaim were gradually displaced from their lands. This displacement was a result of the expansion of subsequent cultures and peoples. Ancient texts, such as the Bible, provide detailed accounts of historical leaders. These narratives often include striking descriptions of their personal attributes and actions. The texts offer concrete examples of their extraordinary characteristics. These details highlight the unique qualities and impact of these figures. Ancient texts often provide intriguing insights into historical figures and their attributes. One notable example is King Og of Bashan, a figure frequently mentioned in historical records. These texts specifically highlight and detail his unique physical characteristics. Such descriptions offer valuable data for understanding ancient perceptions of power and stature. Ancient texts often provide unique insights into historical figures and their perceived attributes. The Book of Deuteronomy, a key biblical text, recounts details about King Og. Among these details is a description of his bed, which was preserved as a relic. This bed measured 9 cubits in length, an impressive dimension for its time. A cubit is an ancient unit of length, typically based on the forearm from elbow to fingertip. The extraordinary size of King Og's bed served as a testament to his legendary stature. Ancient texts often contain descriptions of objects and structures using historical units of measurement. Converting these historical measurements to modern equivalents reveals insights into the past. A specific textual description of a royal bed was analyzed using modern measurement conversions. The conversion indicated the bed was over 13 feet long, an unusually large dimension. This suggests the king's extraordinary physical stature, as implied by the ancient account. Ancient texts serve as invaluable records of historical events and cultural values. Within these texts, certain details are explicitly highlighted by ancient writers. This emphasis indicates the perceived importance of these details at the time of writing. Such deliberate inclusion underscores their significance in the historical memory of the era. These recorded details offer critical insights into the priorities and perspectives of ancient societies. Analyzing these highlighted elements helps modern scholars reconstruct past narratives and beliefs. King Og is a figure of extraordinary stature in ancient texts. His legendary status is reinforced through various historical accounts. Specific details serve as physical reminders of his prominence. These details contribute to the perception of his exceptionalism. The reinforcement solidifies his enduring legacy in historical narratives. The Old Testament contains references to various ancient groups and peoples. Some groups, like the Anakim and Rephaim, are relatively well known to scholars. However, the text also mentions other entities whose names are less familiar. These lesser-known groups often appear in specific historical or geographical contexts. Their obscurity can be due to infrequent mentions or limited contextual details. Understanding these groups requires in-depth textual analysis and historical research. The Emim and the Zamzumim are ancient groups mentioned in historical texts. These passages briefly describe them as earlier inhabitants of specific regions. Their presence is noted in the ancient Near East, as recorded in historical documents. These mentions provide insight into the historical demographics of the region. Ancient texts frequently describe certain groups as giant clans. These clans were consistently portrayed as possessing impressive physical size. They were also noted for their exceptional strength, distinguishing them from others. Such descriptions contribute to a broader historical pattern of exceptional stature. These accounts highlight a recurring motif of unusually large human groups in historical records. In ancient texts, names held profound significance for their original audiences. These names were not merely abstract or symbolic labels. Instead, they represented tangible historical entities and figures. Ancient readers perceived these names as direct references to real-world individuals or places. This understanding imbued the texts with a deeper layer of meaning and authenticity. The historical context of these names was integral to the audience's comprehension. Ancient texts often refer to peoples by names that correspond to real historical groups. These groups once inhabited specific geographical territories, establishing their presence. Their reputations and identities extended beyond their immediate borders. This widespread recognition indicates their significant influence on neighboring cultures. Such references provide valuable insights into historical interactions and power dynamics. Analyzing these names helps reconstruct ancient socio-political landscapes and cultural exchanges. The analysis of ancient texts often reveals recurring themes and references. In the Bible, certain references appear consistently across various books. This consistent appearance is a significant finding for textual scholars. It suggests the presence of a deep-seated and enduring tradition. Such patterns indicate shared beliefs or narratives within the biblical canon. Historical narratives frequently mention these elements in accounts of exploration. They are also relevant in descriptions of conquest and territorial disputes. Furthermore, these elements appear in discussions of political alliances. This demonstrates their broad significance across various historical contexts. Ancient texts frequently mention unusually tall warriors. This repeated appearance indicates a strong historical tradition. The memory of these warriors became firmly embedded in regional history. Such consistent accounts suggest a significant cultural impact. Ancient texts often contain figures that can be interpreted in various ways. The biblical narrative is a specific example of such a text. Within this narrative, certain figures are described. These figures are not presented as mythical monsters. Instead, the biblical account consistently portrays them as human opponents. This distinction is crucial for understanding the narrative's historical and theological context. Ancient texts often describe figures living in established cities. These accounts detail their roles in commanding armies. They also illustrate their efforts in defending territories. Such depictions ground these figures in human reality and historical context. Biblical accounts often present a grounded portrayal of creatures. This contrasts with the exaggerated creatures found in many mythological traditions. Such grounded portrayals distinguish the biblical narrative. It highlights a difference in descriptive approach compared to other ancient texts. Ancient texts often featured giants in mythical eras, alongside gods and monsters. The Bible, however, presents giants within the context of ordinary human conflicts. This narrative choice grounds these figures in historical and societal struggles. It contrasts with typical mythological settings, emphasizing human-centric narratives. Strategic calculations are integral to historical events, influencing outcomes on battlefields. These calculations are evident in the defense and offense of fortified towns. Leaders employ strategic thinking when deciding to advance or retreat military forces. Such strategic decisions are deeply embedded within the fabric of historical narratives. They shape the course of conflicts and the development of civilizations. Historians analyze ancient literature to understand past civilizations and cultures. A crucial distinction exists within these texts, impacting their interpretation. This distinction informs how scholars approach and derive meaning from the content. Accurate interpretation relies heavily on recognizing and applying this critical difference. Biblical writers did not invent fantastic creatures for entertainment. They documented contemporary interpretations of encounters. This suggests a historical context for their descriptions. Their writings reflect existing cultural understandings of their time. Ancient texts document how people interpreted encounters with groups perceived as physically formidable. These records reflect the prevailing worldview and understanding of their contemporary societies. The narratives detail interactions with groups possessing distinct physical attributes or perceived strengths. Such interpretations offer insights into historical perceptions of difference and power dynamics. Ancient texts often describe populations with unusual physical characteristics, such as exceptional height. These descriptions raise questions about their historical accuracy and literal interpretation. One perspective suggests these accounts reflect genuinely tall historical populations. Another view posits that these descriptions are products of legendary exaggeration or myth-making. The precise nature of these ancient descriptions remains a subject of ongoing scholarly debate and analysis. The memory of ancient giant clans significantly influenced recorded decisions. This profound influence is evident within biblical narratives. The memory of these clans shaped historical outcomes. Their impact on biblical stories is undeniable. The Israelite spies' fear highlights the profound psychological impact of a reputation. This fear demonstrates the powerful influence a reputation can exert on individuals. A reputation, whether positive or negative, carries significant psychological force. Such influence can shape perceptions and actions, even before direct encounters. An ancient report significantly influenced a generation of Israelites. This report caused hesitation regarding entry into their promised land. The decision altered their immediate historical trajectory. It demonstrates the profound impact of information on collective action. In ancient times, the reputation of powerful tribes held significant sway. This reputation was a pivotal factor in shaping historical events. It often dictated alliances, conflicts, and societal structures. The perceived strength and character of a tribe influenced collective actions. Such influence could lead to large-scale cooperation or widespread opposition. Thus, tribal reputation directly impacted the course of history. The biblical narrative details the progression of Israel's history. Within this narrative, references to giant clans persist. Their reputation did not immediately disappear from the texts. Instead, mentions of these formidable groups continued to appear. This indicates a sustained presence in the historical and religious accounts. Ancient texts contain scattered references to powerful historical groups. These writings suggest a belief that remnants of these groups persisted. They were thought to still reside in specific geographical regions. This indicates a perceived lingering presence of these influential entities. Generations after the initial spy report, the Israelites prepared to enter Canaan. Under the leadership of Joshua, they began their conquest of the Promised Land. During these campaigns, they engaged in numerous battles across the region. Ancient texts specifically mention encounters with the descendants of the Anakim. This confirms the continued presence of the Anakim in specific fortified strongholds.